Okay, here we go. I believe this is Streaming with Chris again in 3, 2, 1, and here we are with some nice pictures and whatnot. I assume it is working, although I'm not seeing it live, but now it just came. There is a delay actually, so it's not that easy. Right, so I have some interesting topics today. This is what I would say if I had some interesting topics for today. Unfortunately, there is none, which is also a very dangerous thing to say and probably a lie, because I can come up with all sorts of craziness on the spot. Now, hello everyone. Probably you've been missing me for quite some time now, which is probably a week. So there we go. This is Streaming with me, a fascinating series of streaming videos that I've been doing for some time now. Yes, so the intro is over, so to make it very, very interesting, let me talk about the surrounding countries that, well, surround Hungary. Because we do have an insanely interesting relationship with them, based on hatred and traditions. Basically traditions of hatred. But, okay, first a disclaimer. If you ask anyone, in Poland for instance, over here up in middle, like a completely normal person, like, do you hate me as I am Hungarian, and or whatever nationality you have, and probably the answer would be, like, I'm 99% sure that in 99% of the cases the answer would be no, of course not, you're a decent human being, what are you talking about, in their respective languages. But what if we ask the countries? And officially, the official answer would be that, oh yes, I mean not Poland, because traditionally we are besties, like, you know, Poland and Hungary are like good friends, but Slovakia and Hungary and Serbia and Hungary and Romania and Hungary and Croatia and Hungary, you get the point. So, well, why? I mean, let's talk about Europe for a second, at least the way I understand Europe. By the way, just before you think that the question time is over now, no, it's not. I've been forced to talk about this until I get the questions. So, just think up all the questions while I talk about the brief history of Europe in a not very well, not very well understood history of Europe, because I, like, you know, this all depends on like how much I paid attention in history class, which, well, we're about to see. So, according to my history classes, the history of Europe is quite violent, because in the beginning of the history of Europe, lots of people came together, and especially like Hungarians, like lots of people were already here, and Hungarians thought that they just swoop in right from like the Ural Mountains over there, and everybody was like, what are you guys, seriously, what is the deal? And we were like, well, I don't know, it's just like camping here, it's fine. 1,000 years later, this is the current situation. So that's the Hungarian perspective. We arrived a little bit too late, and we just took the land stuff over there. And the other parts of Europe, well, I mean, after the Roman Empire and after the Ottoman Empire, lots of countries wanted to be, well, you know, free or have their own names, and it led to this tiny dispute of the world wars. And if you think about it, I mean, after a while, Europe ran out of land, so basically they colonized Africa and the Americas and Australia and all these sort of places, except these places there is like a bunch of people there already. So the thing is that there isn't a lot of space here, and people can often hold 1,000-year-old grudges over each other. So whatever we did to well, in ancient time, many people said that Hungarians are brave and not afraid of death. Yeah, that's kind of true. Perhaps it was part of the general stubbornness. Like, you know, somebody came and like, I want to kill you, and we were like, no. Why? Just go away. Anyways, that might be a simplification of things, but yeah, I mean, in the beginning, we arrived here. That's Hungary, and then we were like, you know, went around Europe and robbed and raped and all sorts of things happened. And so I kind of understand why some nations would have some grudges towards Hungary. And because of this general stubbornness, if you hate us, then we'll hate you, of course. I mean, you know, we'll join in the fun. So what's happening right now is that here is little Hungary in the middle of everything. There is not even a sea or some ocean that could be like a, you know, like fish would probably not hate us or something. But, you know, it's always Hungary versus Romania, Hungary versus Serbia versus Slovakia versus the Ukraine versus whoever. I mean, yeah, I mean, of course, like versus Austria, but at some point you have to realize or remember that Austria won this dispute, and there was the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which was a thing. I don't know why I wrote it in English, but there you go. So pretty cool. So if you consider the Austro-Hungarian Empire, that was pretty awesome and big, and it consisted of Austria and Hungary and lots of territories that were either Austrian before or Hungarian before. So it is cool, or it was. But then, of course, Hungarians did not wish to be part of just some empire, mostly because it led them to join Austria with the First World War, and then the Second World War. Germany promised us to get some of our land back, but evidently, as you can see, it didn't happen. So here we go. That was the brief history of why everyone hates us and why we hate everyone. So, hey Henry, that's hi. And okay, so not a question but a suggestion, it seems. So tell us how Hungary appeared. One theory says about the Ural Mountains, and the Komi people who live there now speak the language which is close to Hungarian. Yeah, well, it's quite fun if we think about how Hungarians came here. Like I mentioned, we came from somewhere there, far in the east, and then we arrived here. So, what happened? The first question is, where did we come from, and why wasn't it cool there? So, in order to answer the second question, we must answer the first, like, where is the original thing? And that's where everything stops, because we don't know. That's the problem. Everybody has their cool ideas about like what they were. They were Vikings once, they were very ancient ones, and stuff like that. But there is a thing called Magyarok vándorlása, which is let me just write it down for you, just to learn some Hungarian before we go on. So Magyarok, that's obviously Magyar, is the name of the tribe. A lot of people think that the name Hungary is because of we are the Huns, which were kind of ferocious people a long time ago, but that's we were together with them at some point, but then we just took off. So normally this should be well, you know, the name of the country, which is in Hungarian but not in any other languages. So anyways, well, actually that's not true, because in Slavic languages or countries surrounding us, in their languages, often they refer to us as Magyar. So yeah, but at least in the Western world, I guess they associated us with the Huns. Now, the thing is that if you want to make something plural, you put the K in there. Unfortunately for you, often it would be really, really hard to pronounce the K itself, so you have to have a connecting vowel. It's either A or O or E or whichever. Unfortunately, there is no specific rule supporting this, because it's all about the actual rhythm and harmony of the word. So it would be very, very complicated to have a set of rules ready. So rather than we can just learn it throughout the journey of the language. And now, as I stated, or might have stated before, the actual way of speaking Hungarian or creating expressions is to have a root word, which in this case vándor, which is wanderer, and decorate it with all sorts of crazy attachments. Now, some attachments alter the meaning or change the type of the word. In this case, vándorlás would be just another noun in this case. So vándorlás is to wander. I mean, or just wandering. Let's say it with the wandering itself. Not the actual, like, anyways. And then, of course, if you want to have the possessive, but let's not go into the possessive. It's just Magyarok vándorlása. So the wandering of Hungarians. And how to correctly pronounce O and E. Well, E is quite easy if someone already speaks English. That's fine. Because E is... there are a bunch of English words that can help. Fake, lake, and all sorts of stuff. Hello, Irina, if I pronounce the name correctly. And then, it was just a random greeting, and then O is a bit more complicated, because there is no direct equivalent in English. Maybe except what. That could be the closest. It depends on how you actually pronounce the word what. Now, understanding the way everything is pronounced, that's the easy part. But putting all these things in a seemingly random order to form a Hungarian word, that's hard, because obviously your mouth, your muscles are not used to that. So because us humans, we have this sort of muscle memory thing, it allows us to do things without paying attention. For instance, drinking water would be a good example. Just think about it. Taking the glass up and just drink. Nice. And I'm putting it down without breaking it. Now, that is something I can do almost automatically. The only command I should give to my body is that, like, hey, I want to drink, take the glass and let me drink it. And there you go. The same goes with talking, because it's all about the muscles. It's all about your tongue. It's all about the lips and stuff. And it's all about the, this whole, facial thing that people have called the face. Now, the stuff is quite important, because you cannot have a great, cannot have all sorts of great expectations. It's not something that you can actually do right away. Unless your original language, I mean your native language, is very close sounding to Hungarian. So people who live in the area, I mean around here, have an easier time learning the language. Even Germans have an easier time learning Hungarian. It's not that they would want to, I guess, but who knows. And so that's about the end of the pronunciation stuff. And hello, more people. This is getting actually pretty awesome. Now we are at, let's not jinx it, 12 people, which I know it doesn't sound a lot, but to me it's huge. It's amazing. I mean, like, that is more than the last time. That's more than the last time. I mean, the time before that and the time, and my expectation is 0, because I don't know how interesting all this is. However, I'm trying. So, let's go on with stuff. And actually, let me just delete some things, because I just left some text in the streaming stuff before, and it's not going. That's not what we are talking about. Anyways, so let's go back to the name itself. I mean, the expression. And térkép is map. Oh, just for fun. So, we are looking at the map of the wandering of Hungarians. Probably that would be, if it wasn't so small, so insanely small, then, well, I guess this will be this is as good as it gets. So, right now, this is something that is not very easy to understand. Well, maybe it's easy because it's a bunch of arrows, but what's interesting to me is that how does this relate to our own reality? So, supposedly, we come from beyond the Ural Mountains, but we don't know where. It's just something that we think. It's in West Siberia. But we could have come way further from the east. From that. Who knows? So, I guess that if you look at this, think that it's supposed to be all right now. I guess it's crazy. So computer shut down because I thought that it would be fun, and probably just to annoy us, which is great. And in a minute I will just talk about all sorts of stuff, but let me just recap where we were before this insane thing happened. And yes, I'm still available for questioning. So hey Julian, just ask me anything. Now. Oh, crazy stuff. Okay, so while the question is arriving, let me just recap where we were. Quite easy. So, the thing with the origin is unknown, so we don't know where we are from. And we were discussing the Caspian Sea, and there is the Aral Lake. Come on. Which is somewhere. Let me find it. The Aral Sea, I guess. Oh, well, that was easy. So, supposedly we are from Kazakhstan or something. Or a little bit more like above the whole thing here. You can actually find the Ural Mountains over there, so it's kind of weird. But anyways, so somewhere here in West Siberia. And it's a pretty neat place. So, you know, people wonder why we left. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Why is this worse than this one? I mean, this is like, there are like a bunch of people over here already. Although, okay, look, I mean, let's face it, without Facebook it's harder to know where people are. So, probably they didn't like our page or messaged us back. So we thought that, hey, I guess nobody's there, let's go west. But actually, the thing was that we were sort of chased by rival tribes and whatnot. So beside curiosity it was a little bit of fighting going on. So yeah. And then we ended up here, which seemed like a good idea at the time, because if you think about it, if you look at the place like this is quite alright. I mean, yeah, you have to realize that Hungary looks like this now, but normally we sort of occupied all this area here because the mountains were great at protecting us. So yeah, and supposedly we came through here. Oh, sorry about that. Why am I doing that? So, yeah, here we go. That is a place called Verecka, and that is the place where we supposedly came in. So if I switch back to normal map and just point it out that this was the way, there is actually a road here, so I don't know, could have used that one. I mean, I'm not an expert. It depends on what vehicles we used. I mean, if we came by taxi, then sure. I mean, that would have been it's expensive. What's wrong with me? Probably I broke as well, not just a computer. So yeah. So still waiting for Julian's question, but here's another one. So so many foreign people move to live in Hungary, and do local people like this? Well, that's hard to say. I mean, there is no dispute. So there are no, I don't know, bloodbaths and all that. People in general love the financial advantage of this. I mean, if you think about it, lots of people from the Netherlands, from Belgium, and from other countries, even the United Kingdom, retire here because houses are cheaper, and people seem to have a great time. Nobody that I've met with so far complained. I mean, I'm talking about people who moved here and I met them. So I haven't met them all, so I wouldn't know, but normally that's fine. And aside from the idiots and the racists and the racist idiots, it's fine. Because the financial thing, once you... there is a great difference, of course. If you move here and you don't have money and you seem to, like, you know, in need of money, that's not as great as if you come here with a bunch of money in your pockets. I mean, obviously, that is kind of cool. So yeah, I would say that that is the case. People are okay with it in general. There is a great difference between Muslims or like people coming here who are from Syria, for instance, and people who come here from the western part, because obviously when there was this fun Iron Curtain thing and this part of the world was communist, we all heard about the western part of Europe and the western part of the world, and you know, everybody's supposed to be cool there. So imagine, like 20 years later, these cool people move here. That's perfectly fine. It's less cool if people come here from Syria because their religion and lifestyle is very different, and supposedly, and I just have to put this huge disclaimer on that, I don't know a lot about this, but supposedly the rumor says that they do not wish to integrate into society, and as much as somebody who comes from the Netherlands would, because there is a great difference between people who are Christians already or not religious people at all, and people who are Muslims or other different versions of this, because that's something that insanely different. So different holidays, different things, different customs, different stuff to eat, and it's in general it's really really hard to combine these two. And of course, if you think about it, like most things in life, it's all about being lazy or avoiding work or avoiding spending money. Because if someone comes here from the Netherlands, buys a house, they don't care about church most of the time, or if they do, you know, it's like Catholic Church, Reformed Church, Orthodox, whatever. We have it all. But if Muslim people come here, we have very few mosques. Our holidays are Christian holidays. So if you go to work and you have any sort of special requirements, that's something that's just weird and upsets the balance. And obviously, even like think about let me think about my company, for instance. Somebody tells me that they don't like, you know, I have an office, so let's assume that people don't work with me through the internet. Let's assume that I have an office and they come here. So they come here, but you know, I mean, this is my house and it's closed on holidays that I celebrate. For instance, Christmas, the 26th and the 27th, the 25th and the 26th of December, and 23rd of October, 20th of August, 15th of March. These are Hungarian national holidays or Christian holidays, and my office is closed in these days, so naturally I do not require people to be here. How insane is that if then they want to work because it's not a special day for them, in exchange they wish to have their own holidays off, which I don't care, at least from a work perspective, because I just don't, you know, I have no idea. So should we celebrate all the holidays? Should we celebrate no? What if just one person? What if it's just one person in a company? And I hear, again, rumor says that in some western parts of the world, some of the western parts, they figure this out somehow. So you can just sort of get to present your religious stuff. It's in the books, it's in the tax papers, it's in everything, and then it's fine, because it's all figured out. But in Hungary, nothing like that is figured out. So this is a very closed society with rules only created for this special, like, let's say 10 million special people. That sounded weird. So that's sort of the end. Now, right. So when the Roman legions fell apart, were not the legionnaires who decided to stay behind with their family mostly Syrian? Well, I have no idea. Like, that is something that probably someone with proper historic knowledge would know. But like I believe everything. So, sure. But the problem that I discussed, and probably was well understood, just let me recap it. It's this last 20, 50, 100 years, this status quo, and everything could be changed. I mean, it's not about a 1,000-year-old custom that we need to change. It's not about nationalities. It's not about that we would hate different people being here. Everybody would probably get used to them after 5 years and nobody would mention them anymore. But the biggest thing is that we have a government that barely holds itself together and barely holds the country together. And I think the fear here is that if we start creating these new rules and figuring stuff out, it would lead to, or will lead to, lots of conflicts. So the best thing, the best course of action, according to the government, is to avoid all the work. That's it. No work and no pain. Unfortunately, this is not a very good solution, of course. And it doesn't really paint a nice picture of Hungary in international circles. So we tend to think or believe that Hungarians are quite clever, and we have these sort of like great street smarts abilities that let us actually figure out things and solutions to problems very quickly and fix them. And we are very creative. But the thing is that lately this doesn't seem to be the case. Lately it's just all chaos and nobody knows what to do. There is no clear direction because Hungary has been a democracy for the last 25 years, or well 26. This is not nearly enough time to figure things out. So that's perhaps the biggest problem, that we're just not ready to deal with these things. So now, sorry for the delay, let's go back to Julian. There are different tones of Hungarian depending on the part in the country people are. For example, here I can distinguish the region in which people lives listening to his or their tone, or we could call them accents. Slight differences in the tone they speak and the words they use, and well, it's mostly pronunciation and a couple of different attachments. But yes indeed. Let me just figure out what to do. Does that I'm not sure that's correct, but let's no, that's definitely not. Well, it's as good as anything. No, it's not good at all. I'm going to improvise this. So here we go. The standard is the well, Stalin said no man, no problem. Well, that's true. Very, very true. A bit cruel though, but you know, you can't deny the iron logic that cannot be disputed. But yeah, it's probably not the best course of action. Anyways, so different accents. Well, okay, so here we go. There are two main distinguishable accents in Hungarian. One of them is the standard, which is spoken in Budapest and some of the surrounding areas, but like very close to Budapest here, and everything else. And everything else has subcategories. For instance, people here around Szeged, they speak with mostly with O's. like lots of ö in the sentence. Let me give you just, normally you would say veder at, for instance, here in the east, and then they say vödör. So different sounds. That's mostly the biggest difference. And the way they speak, the countryside accent has a western part, like really western and southwestern, and then like this south area, the far east, north, and then there is this middle thing. And I speak the Budapest thing because I'm supposed to, and then of course you're mocked in school if you don't speak. And so if you go to school in Budapest and you speak the countryside accent, like I speak here, something called, based on the name of the county, which is Heves, that sort of accent, then yeah, I mean, you know, either you change it or people laugh at you. So yeah, and people understand each other, so it's not that different. The only really different, that something that can be counted as a dialect, is in Transylvania, over here. And Transylvania has its own sort of version, spoken by the székely people. And these people speak the version of Hungarian that, if left alone and they don't make any sort of effort to make themselves understood, you have no clue what they are talking about. Like, never. I mean, like somebody is going to the place, which is like a place with a very something characteristics. Well, that was informative. So yeah. So that is the thing. Now, often I noticed that when people, regardless of the nationality, so either you speak, try to learn Hungarian and you live in the surrounding countries, or you live in somewhere in the US or even South America, then so they usually end up with some version of a countryside accent, because the standard Hungarian is the most complicated and the most diverse and the most far away from everything. Like, it's really the first away from all the other languages surrounding the area. So, and what native language for you the best? Wow. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't think I get the question here. The better Hungarian accent. What native language? You mean like what? No, sorry. I have to ask you to rephrase it. I'm terribly sorry. I don't get it. But while you are rephrasing it, because probably the fault is mine. It's just very late. So people who actually learn the language, they have this sort of whatever accent or they have, and it's not that hard to clear it up. It's fine. It's not a big deal. But when you start speaking, I think that this is the last part of your journey of learning Hungarian, the accent itself, because obviously I don't have a clear English accent or anything, because I'm Hungarian. How could I? People who learn Hungarian and from a different country, they have their own sort of accent, because there is like 20 years of practice is missing here. or maybe 30. So because I'm native Hungarian, I'm ahead of you, all of you, by 30 years. Or if you learn for 5 years, like maybe 25 years, it doesn't matter. It's the culture, the language, the everything that I had so much time to put everything into place, and you need time to do that. Maybe not 30 years, but maybe 5 years or 6, 7 years. It takes a long time. Foreign people. Okay, then I kind of, yeah, I think I kind of understood it then, maybe. So, yeah. So don't worry about the accent. The only thing that you have to, let's say, worry about is what I talked about before, that because of this muscle memory thing, whenever you pronounce something, just take it slow. Just imagine a situation where somebody is looking at you, waiting for you to actually answer the question they ask you, and you're speaking slowly. They will not care. Never. I've never seen anyone being offended by somebody speaking slowly. But yes, the grammar should be as perfect as you can get it to, and the pronunciation should be clear. So obviously I can speak very, very quickly. I mean, if I let's say try to actually read the national anthem, for instance, here it is in bigger, there is a very clear and slow way of reading it. Let me read it for you very slowly, the way, in my assumption, you should speak. So, Isten áld meg a Magyart. Jó kedvvel, bőséggel. Nyújts feléje védő kart, ha küzd, ellenséggel. Bal sors, akit régen tép, hozz rá esztendőt. Megbünhödte már nép a múltat, s jövendőt. And, well, you know, that's the speed. That's fine. Of course it takes a long time to speak your mind, but it's fine. Just one fun thing, this should be és, hence the apostrophes. This is kind of weird, we don't really use them, but this thing, I don't know why. I guess it wants to be archaic, but it's not very good. Anyways, so we used to have this sh instead of és. Well, we used to have both, but then they eliminated it when there was this big reformation of the language to make it nicer, to make it better. Anyways, more on that later. Now, I can read this for you very quickly, the way if I in a hurry, because I want to get some information out of somebody, or want to quickly tell you a story, then probably I would use that speed. But again, 25 years, 30 years of ahead of you. So it's perfectly fine not to do this. So I repeat, not to do this. Isten áld meg a Magyart jó kedvvel, bőséggel, nyújts feléje védő, kart küzd, ellenséggel, barsors, akit régen tép, hozz rá esztendőt, megbünhödte már a nép, a múltat, s jövendőt. I know it's obviously quicker, but that is something that is reserved for people who speak the language so well that the information is valued more because everything else is effortless. So think about English. I'm trying to speak clearly and therefore I know slowly when it comes to streaming stuff. But actually I can speak English very quickly and most people wouldn't understand it, and the trick is, I think, that if I speak English very quickly, then it's not very nice and it's not very clear, and then people would just like go haywire and just asking me to speak slower. Anything is possible. But the thing is that people value the information that was received. So if you're at the cashier, the cashier host thing at the supermarket, I don't know, for instance, like Auchan. That's clearly not a Hungarian supermarket. But obviously it's in Hungary. It's just the thing. So you go here, you go up to somebody, and the thing is, if you speak Hungarian fast, but the grammar is not clear, and the pronunciation is considered weird because you put emphasis in different places where you shouldn't, then they will just don't understand because it has a strange rhythm, not very precise grammar, and it's not clear what you're trying to say. But then if you speak slowly, it will be perfectly fine. So yeah, that's something. So I guess that today we covered the origins of Hungarian things, and then for some reason nobody wants to research this on a deep level. And sure, the question, if you ask the question like, hey, why, let's, team up and go together. Yeah, the problem is that, it costs a lot of money. And if the government, the scientific community doesn't do that, doesn't give the money to scientists, then, well, But anyways, there are lots of stories about the origins of Hungarians. There are lots of stories about this vándorlás thing. So it's pretty cool. I can talk about it, and we can quickly go through at some point the whole thing. But today I talked about these things and the language and the pronunciation and whatnot, but we haven't talked about the prefixes, which I believe I owe you. So sorry about that. Next time I will be a little bit more organized because I'm in between these kind of project management systems at the moment, and lots of info is just in the old system and not in the new and whatever, so it's weird. And soon it's gonna be awesome, if it's not awesome already. Well, probably not, but anyways, so I guess that's it for today. Don't forget to review this. Everybody should be able to at some point learn the anthem, but I just briefly mentioned it today. So hopefully, despite this whole computer restart fiasco, everything is all right, and we'll see if this video uploads properly, and yeah, next time we'll just do a bit more detailed Hungarian section of the whole thing. Thank you very much for everyone for participating. I can see that the numbers are growing, which means that we can take over the world very soon, or worst case scenario, learn some Hungarian and stuff about Hungary, you know. So, thank you again, and goodbye and whatnot. Yeah, there we go. The end.